Welcome everyone to Voice of Terminus Tavern Talk episode number 14. It looks different today, and as you can see I'm all by myself on screen. Lexa and Kodiak are currently very busy. Obviously it's Thanksgiving season for you guys in the US, but Dark Soul Omega was kind enough to help me out. Even though he's not on screen, he's kind enough to help me out and do the show with me. So say hello, Dark.
Hello, Dark. Hello, everyone.
And give him a warm welcome, chat, and be kind with him. So today's topics, obviously, let's go and kick it off. Is going to be VR and Pantheon news, the latest that was posted on Facebook, Twitter, and whatnot. Then we're going to talk about the MMORPG article, A Small Team with Big Dreams. And the forum hot topic today is going to be racial attributes and abilities viewpoint. And then, obviously, the latest screenshots, and then followed off by the news. So let's go and dig into the VR and Pantheon news. And Pantheon did a poll on Twitter on November 15th, has character movement ever turned you off to an MMO? And it was a whopping 76% that said totally. And 24% said no. Who is that shallow? So Dark, I'm going to ask you right now, has an MMO ever put you off because of character movement?
Yeah, I'm in the 24%. I've actually, I can't remember the names, but I have played games where the movement was just, I thought was awful.
Yeah. I myself have been lucky enough to have not witnessed that yet, but I guess I believe it can be a problem. For some people, especially when you look at, somebody's, Selim's mentioned, Terror, I can't stand how your player walks backwards and everything. There are some things in games, especially, the new modern Asian games. I wouldn't say it put me off totally, but the way the female characters moved in Terror was kind of off. Because they bent forward so much, it was unbelievable. And it was only the female characters that were affected by that. So it did kind of turn me off, but it didn't, drive me away from MMOs. Never happened to me. So do you want to carry on with the next part of the news, Dark?
Sure. It says, Pantheon tweeted, sometimes size does matter. Approaching these gates for the first time can be a pretty awesome experience. What do you guys think?
So, that will be a screenshot. There's a screenshot behind that tweet, and we will bring that up later when we get to the latest screenshots. And Dark, you want to come on with the next one?
And then the next tweet is, ever wonder what it's like to work at Visionary Realms? And it says MMORPG.com takes a brief glimpse behind the scenes.
And that's what we're going to bring up after we finish the VR and Pantheon news. And then they tweeted out on November 21st, what is your preferred method for finding people to play with, e.g. in-game, websites, forums, LFG tools, etc. So, Dark, do you have a preferred method when you're in-game or planning to go in-game to find a group or to find people to play with?
Well, generally it's, it starts off with my immediate friends that are also gamers. If we're interested and playing the same game, I seek them out first. Then I would go with, if I'm in a guild, I would go with the guildies, and then, people that you meet along your way. You meet good people and bad people.
Mm-hmm.
They make it on your friends list. That's generally, where you would go to, find someone to run around with.
Mm-hmm. I've used, all the methods that they mentioned, in-game websites, forums, LFG tools. Well, websites, not necessarily, but forums. In my beginning days in EverQuest 2, obviously the forums were the first place to hit up. Then, like you said, your friends list, your guild, etc. What about you guys in chat? Have you had, do you have a favourite method of grouping up with people or finding people to play with? Post your comments in chat. It will come up on the screen. So let's carry on with the next part of the news. And Dark, do you want to go and bring it up?
Oh, cooking. Have you ever tried to cook anything from in-game in the real world?
That is a very interesting question, and they actually brought that up about 30 minutes ago on Twitter. That question was brought up. What have been some of your favourite cooking recipes and games, and have you ever tried to recreate them in your kitchen? And I was talking to my wife just before we went live, and my wife said no, but now that VR have mentioned it, she's actually going to go and have a look in EverQuest 2. What recipes are there, and what could technically be recreated? So VR, you're in for a treat, because when my wife finds something to cook, I will basically take pictures of it. I might even record it, what she's cooking, and I will send you guys the video to watch and see what she's come up with. So what about you, Dark? You ever tried to cook something from an in-game recipe?
I honestly have not.
Nor have I. But it's definitely a very interesting question. What about you guys in chat? You ever tried to cook or recreate a drink that you that was in-game as a recipe? Let us know about your comments. Leave it in the comments. And now let's go over to the MMORPG article. So VR posted this article on the 17th of November on MMORPG.com. I'm going to bring it up to you guys right now in chat so you can also view it while we go through this. And here is the link. So, not everyone dreams of being at the helm of an MMO cruise ship, but it's fair to say that most video game developers want to have a hand in guiding the journey of their respective enterprises. A studio equipped with near infinite resources may be able to support a large team on a trip to the stars, but a smaller group of Sooners can do the job with a bit more agility and excitement. Working on Pantheon Rise of the Fallen is an incredible team experience for a number of reasons. Chief among these is the ability to tap into a love for the source material, which is shared across all of the departments of Visionary Realms. As a group of seasoned MMO developers and fans, we're able to share an enthusiasm that could otherwise get lost in the mix of a larger team that by necessity would be required to step outside of its respective genre to move a project along. Commensurately, every aspect of Pantheon that gets touched, from crafting new game regions to sharing the latest screens with our community, is met with the same excitement as playing the latest build. As a comparatively small team, we're able to navigate our fleet of Sooners with more flexibility than what's become the norm for MMO development. Extending the already tenuous nautical analogy, a cruise ship can make a huge amount of progress in one direction, but it's found wanting when the need arises to turn on a dime. When problems arise, as they inevitably do, the team here is able to triage them quickly, setting a new course that makes us closer to our target with minimal amount of impact to our development process. Part of what makes game development work with such a small team is a continual reinforcement of communication and collaboration. Our Skype channels are veritable beehives of conversation at all hours of the day. Given the multitude of time zones represented by the group, we're constantly talking about what we can do better and how we can streamline our workflows to be even more efficient. We share a commitment to collaboration rather than competition, with the explicit knowledge that if we're each not able to roll up our sleeves and get scrappy, no one else is going to pick up the slack for us. Working on a game like Pantheon is as close to the metal as a fan of the MMO genre can get. From participating in focused playtests to collaborating with members from various departments to interfacing with our extremely dedicated and vibrant community, every step of the journey is filled with learning and reward. It's an expedition to which all of us are committed for the long haul, and we can't wait to share each milestone with you as we get closer to our destination. So that was a brief insight into VR. Very interesting. What do you think, Dark?
I think it was. It gives us another look at what of what they are trying to project and
Mm-hmm.
what they are doing at this time.
Yep, exactly. And it shows, like they said, studios that have the financial backing and huge teams, they can achieve a lot faster. But there's always the danger, especially if you have a production company, a publisher behind you, that puts pressure on you as well. So, VR, they haven't got a publisher or anything like that with them. They are a relatively small team, but they're constantly growing, and they can take their time and do it at their own pace and do it right, which is awesome. So,
Yeah, that's the way to be.
yep. Let's go move over to the forum hot topic, and that is racial attributes and abilities viewpoints. So, this was posted by RevJack. Any serious RPG should include racial differences in stats and abilities. I get tired of the argument of X class must be played by Y race to min max. Newsflash: racial differences and inequalities exist, and it adds flavour. Night vision, ultra vision, stat differences, natural tracking, regeneration, etc. That's the way that's the way any world works, and it makes it more fun to have these racial differences. Pandering to whiners about not being as good as another race at the same job is ridiculous. An elephant sure as hell couldn't beat a cheetah in a foot race, and a cheetah sure as hell couldn't outmuscle an elephant. And he's absolutely right about that. Um, and it's
Yeah,
definitely
definitely well said.
it's well said, and it's on the ball, and it's definitely a discussion that needed to be brought up and discussed about. So that's why we picked this topic, because I definitely, personally, myself, would like to see each race have its pros and cons and certain abilities and advantages. Let's say, just for the sake of it, we take the halfling and we turn the halfling into a ranger, and we take maybe, let's have a look. We'll go with the Achai as a ranger, just as an example. It's two complete different races. One's really tall, one's really short. There should be advantages, pros and cons. For instance, the halfling would be more swift, have more agility, maybe have a better view advantage from the top, etc. Be able to move maybe a bit swifter, and those are the kind of things that I would definitely or would like to see happen in Pantheon. That depending on which race you pick, that affects your class as well, obviously, because of the racial attributes and abilities. And it should, because that gives us also this individuality, this uniqueness. People have, MMOs are talking in general about, making your character can be unique, this, that, and the other. This also adds to it. This adds the flavour to it as well, because it is true. Not every class or race, or let's say not every race is, equipped to be a tank. Not every race is equipped to be, a cleric, and so forth. So what's your take on it, Dark?
Oh, absolutely. There's going to be differences in each of the races. That's going to be a pro and a con, like it was in the next response to that post there. You know, and they went with the old school ogres, as you could all see. But yeah, every different choice that you have for your character makes it more of a personal investment and more unique to your play style and what you want your character to be.
It does. Um, Are there any things, off the back of your head that you would definitely like to see happen if they did something like this?
Oh, absolutely. I think that there should be, location bonuses. Like if your tribe, clan, city is in the mountains, you're going to be better at, maybe finding things in the mountains, easier to traverse. Maybe even as far as a perception bonus in that area because you know how things are supposed to be
Mm.
from living there. That you're going to be able to see something that's out of place.
Yep. I mean, let's go and bring up some of the stuff that he's mentioned already. He's mentioned night vision. Could you see certain races have, from the get-go, night vision and others not?
Oh yeah, you're going to definitely for humans, they live mostly above ground, you know, daylight nighttime cycle, but then you're going to have other races that, dwarves for example that could be miners, live underground, spend most of their time working underground. Their eyes are going to adjust and they're going to need, low light vision or dark vision,
Mm.
and it's going to be, a regional slash group racial type of a bonus.
Yeah. I mean, we all know that there's going to be, stat differences. So far in every MMO that I've witnessed, depending on what race you picked, they either had, a higher intelligence, a higher wisdom, or they were balanced out like the humans mostly are, the most balanced on stats and everything. So we know that technically should automatically happen. Now, what I find interesting as a suggestion, as he pointed out, natural tracking. Could we see a race in the game that would have natural tracking? And I say yes. I say the halflings could have something like that. From the
Oh, I
get-go,
agree.
that they have a better understanding to track things. Obviously, living in Wild's End for so long, and it's a dense mystical forest, this, that, and the other. I could definitely see the halflings having a natural tracking. It's the same with the next one, regeneration. Technically, that's definitely is an interesting thing to have, a natural healing, a natural regeneration. I could almost see maybe the Ahai having something like that, or even the gnomes, them being a higher entity. Nothing major that would or yeah, even like Fox say, even the elves maybe. Nothing major that's going to basically completely unbalance the existence of the other races, but a natural regeneration or a regeneration bonus. I could see that definitely happening for some of the races.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, I'm going to go quickly
And then
fly.
depending on how deep they want to go with this or how broad, they could, spread it out over, maybe deity choice
Mm,
and faction choice within your own, race. You could have, a scribes guild, your warriors guild, all those things there, and also a deity could have different branches, for intellect, wisdom,
mm.
stamina, strength, maybe even crafting.
I mean, they could even add a complete new system into the racial attributes and abilities. We've talked on our shows previously about racial attributes and abilities, this, that, and the other when we go through the individual races, but we never gave it any real further thought. There's another way of actually bringing this in, rather than just making your choices based off of your AAs or whatever for racial attributes and abilities like we've seen in EverQuest 2 and multiple other games. Um, they could, like you just described yourself, have different factions within the major cities of these races that you can seek out and learn different racial attributes. So you can make the choice yourself. You go to the NPCs or whatever, how they want to approach it, and you can then choose out of all the attributes available to this race and abilities how you want to go and approach this character's upbringing. And I think that would definitely be something cool and new to do, rather than just having your skill trees and whatnot. When you just click, right, I'm going to go and add 2% to run speed. I'm going to go and take a bonus on, versus poison damage and this, that, and the other. Rather, go out and have to learn. And this connects also to the idea from Sintro in the forums about the environment affecting you as well, the weather, etc. You can also connect that to the racial attributes and abilities as well. So you would have to go and spend a certain time in the zone to, bring up your racial attribute against cold, for instance. Let's say, for instance, the dwarves they have a better understanding or a better resistance against cold, so they can also advance on that by spending more time in colder regions. The same goes for other classes though as well. What do you think about something like that? Rather than just clicking on a choice to skill up, you have to go and seek out NPCs and learn about these different abilities and attributes.
Oh, absolutely. Then it makes the choice more yours. That instead of like, okay, I'm going with the barbarians because they're up in the north and going to have cold resist. Well, you're going to kind of have cold resist, naturally, but if you're able to pick where you're going to go, and it's like, okay, I want a barbarian, but I want him to be, able to stand the heat more because I like the deserts. And so be able to go and, work on a quest or a conditioning for your character, for
Mm-hmm.
another word, to be able to withstand or, be resistant to that type of environment even more.
Another thing, what we haven't touched on yet though, is what they could also add as well is, now let's say, for instance, just an example, people, just to keep it simple. Let's say you have 20 attributes and 20 abilities for each race that you could choose from, and you can choose them how you want, whatever. But if you choose, for instance, to take a attribute that gives you a 2% beneficial on run speed as an example, there should also be a weakness to some point affecting something else. So you take the 2% run speed, but that would also give you maybe you take a hit 1% in maybe agility or something like that, in that kind of area as well. You could add weaknesses as well, depending on the choice that you take, or make. Basically, some abilities and attributes give you also weaknesses based upon the choice that you make. So you're gonna have to go and basically look what you're doing and make sure you fine tune the way you want it to be.
Yeah, you could run faster, but maybe not carry as much.
Yeah, something like that, for instance. It's definitely a very interesting topic to look at and go for. Yep, carry capacity, for instance. You take a leap in run speed, but you lose the ability to carry more. Stuff like that you could do. Um,
Yeah, the yin and yang, you got to have balance back and forth. You give and take. And then those choices make your character your character.
yep, like Coach said, run speed bonus might drop perception. Faster you go, the less you notice. Exactly. It's stuff like that that they could add. What I don't want to see though is them go overboard with it. We've seen it happen in multiple games where they have an idea, they start rolling it out, and then it becomes the norm. And then everything else is based off of that. They go and do it, and then it just becomes a random choice, and then you basically end up with these are the attributes and abilities that you need to choose to have your character or class optimize best. So they need to balance it out, not give everything weaknesses. Maybe they could even give you um, or not maybe, but what they should do is they should give you stuff that does give you a beneficial and only a beneficial, but they should also give certain things, weakness. They should mix and match it, and not make it, everything has to have a pro and a con all the time. It doesn't have to always be like that. Some things can be just a pro. Don't make it, exceedingly large pro bonus, of course, and balance it out. We don't want to have it become a linear way to go. Everything that's basically got a plus is going to have a minus. A plus, a minus. That kind of gets boring as well.
That's true.
What's this? Oh, okay. I'm going to put that down. So, guys, you got anything in chat to add to this idea on the forums about abilities? Anything that you guys would like to see while we try and brainstorm some ideas here off the back of our heads? Let's go and halflings can jump to normal height. Let's go and have a look at some of the races, Dark. And I'm gonna throw you under the bus right now, and let's go and say, let's take the Darkmere. What could you see them have as an attribute or ability that might affect them negatively and positively? Anything off the back of your head?
Yeah, they brought it up in chat, with being a water race, or previous water race, water breathing, better eyesight in the water, possible that could transfer over to better eyesight at night.
Also a possibility.
But then again, the possible drawbacks for that race would be, maybe less carrying capacity because weight is different from being in the water to being on land.
Yep.
And like Frogzar said, also heat.
Yep, definitely. Heat could definitely affect them. Dehydration, stuff like that. So obviously, those are effects that could happen to them. Let's go and pick another race. Let's go and talk about Lexa's favourite race. Let's go and talk about the Scar. What could the Scar have as attributes and abilities that affect them either positively or negatively? And another thing to point out, while I give you some time to think, Dark, is though, don't forget that the Darkmere could possibly be allergic to water. As we read the lore, we found out that technically water is poison to them. So that's another thing to think about as well. How could that affect the Darkmere?
Yeah, that's one thing that I've always thought about, but that has never been brought up. Is like racial allergies, like you said, allergic to water.
Yep. That's another thing that they could, add to this racial attribute and abilities viewpoint. They could also add, allergies and stuff like that into it as well, because it is part of us, in real life as well. Depending on where you're from, it's just like with me when I went, on holiday to Italy. Me being British, living in the dark all the time, hating the sun. I turned so red. It was unbelievable. I was crisp. I was as red as this cup. That's how I was, basically. That's what I looked like when I hit Italy, because I can't stand the heat. So, it's definitely something to look at. Let's have a look at what people are saying in chat. Minor damage shield because I'm so spiky. Very funny, Lexa.
Yeah, funny, Lex.
Yeah, they don't know how to swim. That's a good one.
Oh, exactly.
Yep, you can't swim. So you're going to have to get on a Darkmere's back and hitch your ride or something. Trying to think.
So being so rugged, solid, and basically warlike, maybe they have a improved, say, bashing
Mm.
resistance. They got a mitigation because of their spikes and their thick skin.
That's also something you could, add to it. It's not just the racial attributes; it's the general attributes as well that could come into play. Very good point. Scar having a better mitigation because of the spikes. That would technically is technically like the regeneration ability. That would be their defense, an extra armor. They would have an extra armor because of these spikes and everything, and the hard leathered skin. So they get a higher mitigation for that, maybe a higher defense bonus. Even the race's height could play um, a attribute as well. A higher race would have a better advantage over lower, smaller races like the ogre versus the halflings, for instance. It's gonna take you 20 halflings to knock over a ogre, basically, because of his size and his brute strength. Thanks for the follow.
Yeah, that's true. And also, on a funnier side, they could be minus 10 for door frames.
Yes, very true. Um, I'm trying to see. There's another discussion within this about hard set combinations that prevent combinations that would be so significantly off base that they would be considered a hindrance to players' long-term value in group setting. In my view, it limits every so slightly the types of things VR has to balance for. So that's definitely something. Should there be a hard set in combinations? I personally, with the way I would approach this, not it being something that you get every 5 levels and you choose your attribute and everything. If you go out and have to study and learn about these attributes and abilities, I don't see a reason to have it hard set in any way, because it's going to take you time. Obviously, it's not going to be something you go to the NPC, speak to him, boom, you've learnt about it. No, if you want to learn about, for instance, running faster because that's part of your racial attribute, you would have to then go out in the world and sprint, jump around, this, that, and the other for a period of time. And basically, the more you sprint, they could even add a distance on it. For instance, they could add a distance of, I don't know, 10 kilometers. You sprinted 10 kilometers, finally you can go back to the trainer and you've learnt this ability, for instance. That's ways of doing it. I don't see a need for a hard cap per se. If you want to go out there and learn all attributes, it's going to be a very challenging thing for you to do. What's your take on something like that, having it hard set?
Well, the hard set is, it makes it easier. I'm going to jump on the Lexer, developer programmer side here. It makes it easier to program and set for in game.
Mm.
But also, I think you should have the ability to be able to improve on that. So, like they have, completely left field here, like they have dailies for crafting, like an EQ, maybe have dailies for, improvements of a stat or a resistance that you go do.
Mm.
That you get a small increase up to a possible cap. That maybe to increase your resistance to heat, you have to go mine X number of ore or do something in like a rim of a volcano or something where it's extremely hot to build up your resistance.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. Um, you know, there's also, like you just brought it up with crafting and everything. You can also mix in racial crafting abilities and attributes to it as well, and give it more flavor. I just don't want it to be your typical approach to how we view racial attributes or gain them and abilities. I would like to have different ways to achieve or unlock these abilities as well. I think that would also be cool to do is give us different ways to unlock or get a hold of these attributes and abilities for my race. I could even see the other topic we talked about a few weeks back, the lore keeping. The more you learn about the race, you find out more about long lost attributes that were once available to them, maybe on their home planet, and that since they came to Terminus have forever been gone until we uncovered the deepest, darkest secrets about your race that you've got. That's another thing that they could do. It could be achieved through questing. It could be achieved through trying to do stuff, unlock stuff, etc. You could have to talk to certain NPCs or study something. Different ways of achieving these attributes basically is something I definitely want to see.
Oh, for sure. But there still needs to be a nice a level,
Mm,
because they're going to have those people that are going to be 24/7 in the game, and the with the ability to be able to pick up skills attributes that are non-racial by doing quests or something.
mm.
you know there's got to be a set cap for how many you can get, because
Oh,
if you're able
definitely.
to get all of them, that could be unbalancing to some extent.
Yeah, like you said already, daily quests, stuff like that. You could put it down to something like that, where you can only do maybe 2 quests a day or whatever, and it's going to basically spread out the time period for you to achieve it, if and stuff like that. So you can lock it up like that. You could even go further and say, once you've reached the word I hate saying, end content, um, that's then the time you could would receive maybe the dailies.
Oh yes.
What's
Just
this?
maybe have you can have different factions within the city. You're going to have
Mm,
your scholars, your warriors, your tinkerers, your crafters, your cooks, and each one, like they have in like EQ2 now, you can go and do these things and get little skill ups.
yeah. Wasn't there a mention in the law about the first six or something like that? If I remember
Yeah,
right, maybe for
yeah, there was.
those 6 races, for you to unlock certain abilities and attributes, you have to learn about all of the lore from each race. Another way of bringing in a time sink and stopping people from achieving everything so fast. Certain attributes and abilities can only be achieved if you've learned everything about all the other races. From the 6, it gives it spices things up. If you've picked one of those races that happens to be one of the 6, as they're called, yeah, you've got a disadvantage maybe, because you have to learn about all the other races as well for you to unlock some certain things. But you're going to have advantages and disadvantages regardless of what race you decide to pick on. And um, like the original post said, we're all fed up with hand holding, being spoon fed everything, everybody being equal. We're all shouting for you know individuality and uniqueness and challenge and this and that, and that's part of the challenge. One person's going to be better than the other. One person's going to learn faster than the other. One person's going to be have an advantage at doing, mathematical equations, and the other one's going to be have an advantage in doing artistic stuff. And that's how it is. So there should be pros and cons in general, and it shouldn't be something that we end up complaining about. We're looking for VR. We're looking up to VR. We're hoping that VR brings out a old school challenging game for us, and that's part of the challenge. Because if they did each race, if they turned up making each race equal, then what's the point in having these races? Technically,
Yeah,
just because they
yeah,
look
it'd be
different,
purely cosmetic.
it's a purely cosmetic thing. So they should definitely have a lot of pros and cons and make you think twice before you go and create your race. You know, what do you want to do with your race? What do you want to achieve? What kind of challenge are you looking for? This, that, and the other. Make you really think about what race you're going to pick, and take your time before you go and do it. And it's definitely a really cool topic. Racial attributes and abilities viewpoint. I think we've kind of blabbered on as much as we could about this topic, so we're going to go and move over now to the latest screenshots that were brought out by VR, and we have two for you. You've all seen the first one on Twitter. I presume that this is maybe part of Thronefast's Great Walls or something like that outside of Avendir's Pass is what I presume that would be, part of the Twin Towers or whatever for Thronefast. Maybe something that goes through to the defences. Nice looking screenshot. What do you think, Dark?
Oh, that just screams adventure to me right there. And I look at that as like, how did they build that?
Yep, very interesting. It looks really, really cool. And this is exactly like Dark Souls said, eye candy. It's small things like this put out throughout the world that make it more pretty, more fun to engage in, rather than just having a huge world with nothing in it. And the next screenshot that I'm going to show you guys isn't technically a screenshot, it's more of a concept art. This was actually on the MMORPG article. This is the cleric concept art that VR added into that article, and I like the direction this is going. Nice shiny armor. He has some kind of spectry weapon in his hand, and he's casting some kind of odd ball or something like that. It looks really cool. I like the direction the concept artists are going and approaching the concept art. It's different. I've not seen concept art like this before. It's not very colourful per se. We know that the cleric's accent is technically in the blue range, and the rogue, what they've released so far, is in the green. It looks really, really nice. And the armor, you can see different types of armor by the looks of it. 3 different types that the cleric obviously chooses. Now, from the concept art, guys, with the 3 types of armor, which do you prefer best? I find personally the middle one interesting. What about you, Dark?
Yeah, the middle one is interesting, but I would look at the bottom one. Well, because that has a more of a utilitarian
Mm-hmm.
feel to it. The B one looks like it's specialized.
Yeah, it does. It looks really interesting, and I hope from these concept drawings that similar possibilities will be in game with the armor as well. Maybe that's a hint of different stances that one could go. The middle one being more open and everything gives you a better movement. The top one obviously looks like it's built for you to resist a lot, and the bottom one, like you said, a lot of utility, etc. So that's the 2 screenshots from VR. And now we're going to go and move over to our final segment, which is obviously the other news, which is related to the voice of Terminus. And this Thursday's show has been bumped up to Wednesday. So tomorrow is when we will be doing our Thursday show, because obviously in the US it's Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving weekend. So we will be doing our show tomorrow instead of Thursday, and the topic is the gnomes. So we're finally going to touch on one of the most interesting races from the lore. I can't wait to get into the gnomes, because their approach is uniquely different than what we've seen in multiple games, from EverQuest up to World of Warcraft, etc., just to name the two big ones. And the classes, when you look at them throughout the games, they have all a very high similarity, and VR have gone and done it and made this race completely new and interesting. They've stuck to certain elements of this race, but they've spiced it up. As we already know, they're space gnomes. They don't have a body. They're spiritual entities, more or less. They're a higher being. They've ascended to a higher being of existence, and for them, they have a disadvantage. For them to actually be able to interact with our world, I'll just call it our world for now, they have to wrap themselves in these robes and cloth to form these bodies so they can appear to us and engage with us. So that's obviously a slight disadvantage that they have. So it's going to be interesting.
You got to think with their ethereal communication. How are we going to communicate with them?
Yep, definitely. Can they speak? That's the biggest question. When they wrap themselves up in this cloth, and I'll just bring up the ad again so we can have a look at the thingy. And it looks like he's wearing a mask of some sort. The question is, though, can these guys speak? That's definitely going to be one of the most interesting discussions tomorrow. And I hope that Lexa has made his notes and is ready to talk about the gnomes. And no short jokes tomorrow. So I think this is a wrap, Dark. I think we did. I think we did well, despite the fact that the presence of Kodiak and Lexa, visually wasn't there. I think we two managed very well today. So with this, guys, we hope to see you tomorrow. Don't forget, tomorrow is our Thursday show, not Thursday. Thursday will be no show. So we'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. I will remind you all, so you don't forget. And we hope that you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving and a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. And then we'll get back to normal scheduling after Thanksgiving weekend is over. So with that, say goodnight, Dark.
Good night, guys. Have a good one.
Good night, guys.